me, Suze, the holistic stylist, bringing you conversation today concerning why I believe you need to know your blood type in order to transcend and ascend, creating a happier, healthier, less stressed out version of you. Greetings. In my experience, living and applying blood type protocol is an essential spark which ignited the sacred science, connecting my spiritual and mental states and providing a cosmic tune-up for the physical vehicle. Just like your car needs a specific weight oil to run properly, our blood type is defined by its composition, its viscosity, and other mysterious markers which will accompany us into 5D, in my belief. So, for example, I'm an A blood type, and we have a thicker, sticky, coagulating type of blood compared to the O blood type, which would have a thinner viscosity of blood. Each has its ups and downs, its strengths and its weaknesses. But I believe if we work simply with the statement that I found in Dr. D'Adamo's book, which is the 2 out of 10 poison rule. A lot of people do it through their diet, as you can see here, eat right. But I'm suggesting live right, which is another one of Dr. D'Adamo's great works. The online information concerning the subject of blood type is quite esoteric if you have researched it, whereas Dr. D'Adamo's knowledge comes more from his medical Western doctor type of training, which obviously he took to heart. A lot of his family, including himself, are A blood types, and our main problem or obstacle is that we internalize our stress. So if we can apply simple strategies to reducing stress in this world, what a blessing that is. Before we go into the traditional side of this, I want you to understand and bring it to an understanding of your heart that most people believe that blood type has no validity at all whatsoever. And that is another one of those things we need to have full disclosure on, because it is part of your birthright. And if you're studying it, say, on YouTube, you'll come to find, for example, that depending on what your blood type is and whether it's positive or negative, that you would have over a dozen different alien influences that would add into your DNA. And also, ETs, which are similar in look to, of course, us human earthlings that are our cosmic family that live on other planets. So there is some ET influence in there as well. And then, of course, as you go farther down the tunnel and you get into the negative blood types, which is, just positive and negative, very, very not important in Western medicine unless you're a negative blood mother having a child, which of course I'm a negative blood person as well, so I know this story. But, if you research these things, you'll come across beliefs, whether it would be the bloodline of Christ and the Holy Grail or the Illuminati. And, I believe too that, say, when we're talking about the ET lineage, that's where the old Bible story about, say, the angels that found women fair and laid with them, or whether it would be giants. I think the Wingmaker's philosophy easily is synchronicitous with that final category, the bloodline of Christ. So here's back to the traditional medical side. These are papers that I created back in 2005. One of the things that I do as a holistic stylist is wellness seminars. So this is great information that came right out of Dr. D'Adamo's book, and that's where we're going to look there. But originally, when this philosophy came my way, I was so upset because when I looked at it as an A blood type, most of what I chose to eat my whole life was a poison for me. And so when you check into the book and you look at your blood type, you'll see things that are poison, which think of as releasing carcinogens. And you'll see things that are beneficial. Imagine in your mind those things that are beneficial are the sponges and the filters that suck the crap out of your body. And of course the neutral things are food, and they're absolutely fine to eat. But like I said, when I saw this and realized that 6 out of 10 of the poisons that I was taking in every day, and I was in my 30s, I knew that had to stop. So back then I eliminated meat. That's why on Facebook you'll see that I say I don't eat anything with eyes. That was strictly, one of those things that I did to improve my health. Now, of course, as I went down the esoteric road, you see, I did come across information in a book called Wisdom from the Monastery that back in the day, the priests, when they were going to engage in spiritual matters, didn't imbibe alcohol and they didn't eat meat, just because it would lower their vibration. And of course, when you're dealing with things in the astral world and the spiritual world, you don't want to be on a low vibration energy day, because of course what would come to interact with you, we would want that to be a pure interaction instead of something that could be draining or something that someone didn't expect. Be very careful when you engage in your spiritual practices. So, I'm going to go over A blood type philosophy first, because I'm an A blood type. So, from the time that I was young, 23 years old, I had doctors telling me that I had high blood pressure. Now, with everything I know about myself, of course, I felt everybody's pain and I internalized my stress. And interestingly enough, A blood types have high levels of cortisol and adrenaline. So we run hot and we beat fast. And that was very apparent in my life. I also choose to take in a great amount of energy from the cosmos and act as a channel. So I understand why my blood pressure was up during those years, and I was learning great lessons along the way in how to free myself from the matrix. So, the characteristics of an A blood type that are positive are intense, inventive, demanding, perfectionist, sensitive, cooperative, and creative. And it says type A genetic disposition favors a structured, rhythmic, harmonious life surrounded by a positive, supportive community. Type A best exemplifies the powerful interconnectedness of mind and body. A blood types have low incidence for serious ailments that plague O's like the flu. Seldom do you see an A blood type really sick. Type A's can significantly minimize all blood type related risk factors by simply adhering to the blood type, A diet, and prescription. Type A bloods need to study the importance of the circadian rhythm, which is getting enough sleep at the proper time. Napping is great for A blood types as well. Carbohydrates, they love us. We can fully utilize the nutrients from carbohydrate sources. We also greatly benefit from the mind-body exercise like yoga, tai chi, meditation, and deep breathing. A's achieve mental balance when they have ample opportunities to express themselves, be it through art or writing, verbally or physically. We have plenty of energy to go around, break up the monotony by altering physical, mental, and spiritual activities. And of course, that's what I get to do being a holistic stylist, so praise God for that. Here's the bad news for A blood types, but don't let it stress you out, and that's supposed to be funny. Naturally, we have high basal cortisol levels and a tendency to overproduce cortisol in response to stress. Maintaining a balance of stress hormones is perhaps the single most important thing A's can do for their health. The sensitive type A hormonal balance, which includes the ever-present effects of high cortisol levels, makes you more susceptible to diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. Excessive cortisol levels disrupt regeneration of the bones. Skin is unable to regenerate, resulting in premature aging. When a matter remains unresolved, it acts as a chronic stressor. Now, these are specific digestive conditions that A blood types can be susceptible to. One is called Barrett's esophagus. It's a precancerous condition that involves chronic GERD. There's also gallbladder and liver disease. Sometimes components of bile, especially cholesterol and bilirubin, come out of solution and form crystals in the gallbladder, much as sugar crystallizes when we make rock candy. Specific metabolic conditions: obesity, low metabolism. While type O's burn their meat as fuel, type A's tend to make a toxic mess out of it. Many meat-eating A's report feeling fatigued and lacking energy. High cholesterol. We need to recognize that we are not metabolically equipped to deal with dietary fat, and consumption of a high-fat diet will probably result in high cholesterol levels. Heart disease. Promote heart health with supplements like hawthorn, coenzyme Q10, and antioxidants. Beware of extra iron. Apparently, high iron levels catalyze the formation of free radicals, which damages the artery walls. Excessive blood clotting. Type A is associated with higher levels of the clotting chemicals factor VIII and von Willebrand's disease, both associated with increased risk of heart attack. Specific immune conditions. Cancer. Dr. Diadamo states the best approach with an adversary like cancer is to place as many independent and mutually supportive strategies at your disposal as you possibly can, and in particular, breast, stomach, colon, and prostates are hot spots on the A blood type. I'd like to share a story with you. Over a decade ago, when I became this person that y'all are getting to know now, everybody was hassling me about quitting drinking alcohol and giving up cheeseburgers. And they said, well, why does Suze do that if she smokes? And I'm like, wow. I mean, if I gave up 80 out of 100 of my wicked ways, why are y'all judging me on the 20% that I kept? And, I think that was a freedom dance for me, because instead of internalizing the stress, I allowed myself to speak my truth and say, come on now, let's give ourselves all a pat on the back for the good things that we are accomplishing. What we focus on creates our reality. So, A blood type, we're good. Now, we're going to talk about type O next. And I'll put it to you this way, short and sweet. The reason why you want to check this information out is so you can alleviate your stress and deal better with the people that you love, understand them more. So, in my old life, I was married to an O blood type. And O's tend to blow their stress out, which means they might do something physical or speak a little louder or engage in physical activity, whereas the A internalizes. So you can see, if you're going to have a discussion on a difficult subject, how each one would approach it from a different angle that might not be synchronicitous in any manner. So the characteristics of an O blood type: they're extroverted, they're leaders, confident, pragmatic, strategic, patient, and logical. The ancestral prototype was a canny, aggressive predator. It was instinctual for type O's to strive for position, to leave the weak and feeble behind in order for the majority to survive. At their best, type O's can be powerful and productive. Conversely, a type O under a great deal of stress may demonstrate the extremes of these qualities. It's the O's birthright to harness the remarkable physiological strengths that are part of the genetic heritage. They are wired for efficiency, digestive, metabolic, and immune systems acting in concert to promote strength and endurance. Type O is very hardy, offering a natural aversion to cancer with a better survival rate than A blood types. Type O's rely on physical exercise to maintain physical health and emotional balance. The act of physical exercise releases a swarm of neurotransmitter activity that acts as a tonic for the entire system. Atkins, or a low-carb lifestyle, works very well with type O's. And it takes a lot more to knock an O blood type off his kilter in the face of stress. So that's awesome. Here's the bad news for O's. Type O produces high levels of catecholamines and low levels of MAO when stressed. The type O stress response can cause bouts of excessive anger, temper tantrums, hyperactivity, and even create a severe enough chemical imbalance to bring about a manic episode. Type O is also more vulnerable to destructive behaviors when overly tired, angry, depressed, or bored. These include pathological gambling, sensation-seeking, risk-taking, substance abuse, and impulsivity. If the type O individual experiences elevated stress levels, unhealthy behaviors, poor diet, or a lack of exercise, negative metabolic effects like insulin resistance, sluggish thyroid, edema, and weight gain are probable. Special digestive conditions for O's include GERD, which is chronic heartburn, symptomatic burning in the upper abdomen and chest, ulcers accompanied by general pain, nausea, vomiting, and lack of appetite, and Crohn's disease, which is an inflammatory bowel disease. Specific metabolic conditions include Syndrome X, not Planet X, Syndrome X, condition created by a combination of obesity, high triglycerides, and insulin resistance, which can lead to diabetes and heart disease. Triggers carbohydrates. Blood clotting disorders. Type O's thin blood can become a serious problem when it comes to wounds or surgical procedures that involve bleeding. Hey guys, never, ever opt to have a surgery during a full moon. Why? People tend to have more bleeding problems. Of course, as you know, you would carry more fluid, and things move faster. It's the height of the energy at a full moon. A better time for surgery is after the new moon, the beginning of a cycle. Also, real quick, if you have O blood types, which the estimate, would be 41% of the general population. Do we see now why so many kids are medicated and, they say that they have a disease or a condition like ADHD or ADD or bipolar or manic? These are all things that stem from the basic American diet, where you sit down and you have a big old mess of meat and potatoes at the same time. These two things don't digest or break down the same. So that's why with other lifestyles you see that they focus in on a specific thing that breaks down. It's more things that you imbibe timed throughout the day. Like you have your vegetables and your salad, and then later on you sit down and have your carbohydrates or your protein. The food pyramid, as we know, was part of the false flag program, so it's time to walk away from that, and O's have it something terrible. Carbonation, like any kind of soda, beer, alcohol, just wreaks havoc with an O. So, back to specific immune conditions. We have candida infections prevalent in O blood types. They can appear internally as well as externally. Thrush in the mouth is the same as a yeast infection that they would classify in another region. Thyroid disease, both hyperactive, which is Graves', and underactive, which is Hashimoto's. Dysfunctions are most common in type O's. Inflammatory conditions, prone to greatest range because of the fructose sugar, which acts as its blood type antigen. Predisposition because of lower basal cortisol levels. Now these are miscellaneous things, but they're very important. O blood type children should be given the oral polio, not the injected form, and don't give them acetaminophen either, which is Tylenol. O-type blood pregnant women should avoid the flu vaccine, especially if the baby's daddy is a type A or an AB. Type A behavior linked to disorders such as duodenal ulcer and heart attacks. And A blood type behavior is different from A blood type, although they do share similarities. A type behavior is more of a psychological term that groups people into categories of behaviors. Last but not least, O blood types should avoid MAO inhibitors and St. John's wort like the plague. And by the way, I didn't mention, back in the day, theoretically, the majority of people were O blood types. And they say what really knocked the numbers down were the plagues, or the things that were eradicated through vaccinations. So maybe possibly that's why there really is a heartfelt belief that vaccinations help the majority of the people, because the majority of people at one time were O blood types, and they still are. Now, approximately 31% of the people would be A blood types, and they say that's actually rising. I've seen different percentage breakdowns where, of course, they're getting more specific, which is awesome, and breaking down the pie into positive and negative. B blood types is what we're going to talk about next, and they say that constitutes around 17% of the population pie. Most rare is the AB blood type. So, here's the good news for the B blood types. And I always like to tell one of my crabby friends who's a B blood type to be positive. So, characteristics of the B blood type: they're free thinking, resilient, creative, original, subjective, and an invertebrate organizer. As a type B, you carry the genetic potential for great flexibility and the ability to thrive in changeable conditions. Your position is fluid rather than stationary, with the ability to move in either direction along the continuum. The balancing forces always present in type Bs give them a unique stress profile. Why this is because the B blood type is a combination of the A and the O, so depending on the genes, the background conditions, the karmic makeup of the individual, I would think that they'd get different portions of those two aspects of the different blood types. Type Bs tend to be very emotionally centered. Type Bs are inordinately gifted in harnessing the powers of visualization and relaxation, and therefore recover from stress much more quickly than type As. Meditation is extremely effective for lowering cortisol levels in type Bs. In general, a healthy B, living right for their type, tends to have fewer risk factors for disease and tends to be more physically fit and mentally balanced than any of the other blood types. Type B tends to have a greater ability to adapt to altitude and statistically are the tallest of the blood types. Type B blood seems to offer some protection against cancer. That's good, isn't it? Now, for the bad news for bees, we have a word to bring into our vocabulary, and it's a word that's known in the homeopathic community: maladaptation. And what that means is it's like on a seesaw. The tipping point where the DIS with a hyphen ease of the body outweighs that healthy God-given balance that the B blood type was blessed with. So this is the bad news for the B blood types. They tend to be highly sensitive to the effects of slipping out of balance. Out of balance, they suffer from the effects of high cortisol and a susceptibility to viral infections, chronic fatigue, mental fogginess, and autoimmune diseases. In a state of maladaptation, type Bs become extremely tired, depressed, and lacking in motivation. Many of Dr. D'Adamo's patients who suffer from chronic fatigue syndrome are type Bs. When off balance and stressed, type B is highly susceptible to bacterial infections, slow-growing viral diseases of the nervous system, and certain autoimmune diseases. Specific metabolic conditions. Syndrome X again. Duh, because they have part of the O blood type. So see, we're starting to see repeats, just like how the A blood type has the high cortisol level. So again, Syndrome X is the metabolic balance of type Bs is dramatically influenced by the rather idiosyncratic effects of lectins in certain foods. Lectins in chicken, corn, buckwheat, lentils, peanuts, and sesame seeds cause insulin resistance and induce polyamine formatin, resulting in weight gain, fluid retention, and hypoglycemia. Specific immune conditions. Bacterial infections. The most common bacterial producing infection are bee-like in nature, and you don't produce antibodies against them. Pay special attention to kidney and urinary tract infections. Guard against flu with regular doses of elderberry. 1 tablespoon 3 or 4 times daily during the season. E. coli. Bee blood makes you defenseless against the infection. Be careful of raw or undercooked foods. Streptococcal disease, resulting in strep throat, toxic shock, bacteria, and pneumonia. Pay special attention to pregnancy and newborn development. AB type infant with a type B mother has double the risk. Viral nervous system disorders, fibromyalgia. Grains are at the top of the list, known to induce joint inflammation. Avoid wheat. Autoimmune disease. Type Bs are especially susceptible to autoimmune diseases such as rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, and scleroderma. SCLEODERMA. Last but not least, can you believe it? There are such a small percentage of AB blood types, and it relates to the same small percentage of redheads, approximately 2 to 4% of the population, AB blood type. This blood type is continually mutating and evolving, so it's very, very difficult to get enough people into a study group to say what their strengths and weaknesses may be in a particular entity's makeup. They're very mysterious. So, isn't it something? Now, you know I'm the holistic stylist, and of course I have very close relationships with my clientele. The people that are O's never know what blood type they are. And actually, you know, I like to tease them, but on a serious note, if you go to the doctor and you say, "Hey doc, I'd like to know my blood type," they're going to probably tell you that there's no relevance in you knowing your blood type, and the test is way too expensive, and the insurance company is surely not going to pay for it. Some people have wonderful doctors that will share that information with them. It's surely on their records. And I think now, as we become sovereign, that's a nice question to ask. And you know what? If you can't get an answer, here's what you do. You go to your local your local health food store, and you purchase a blood type test kit. You can do that. Some people find out their blood type by giving blood. And like I said in the end, as an A negative blood type, I always knew how important the subject was, because if you reproduce with a positive blood father, you'll get a nice shot in your butt at 20 weeks along. It's a long name, they just call it a ROGAM shot in the medical industry. Now, I have read along the way that there are other holistic homeopathic alternatives that you can pursue, and I suggest that you search that if you're of the childbearing years and you are negative blood and you have a baby's daddy that is positive. I don't want to go down that whole tunnel again, good grief. But anyhow, as a negative mother, when my children, each time that they were born, of course, they would be tested immediately. And if the child was positive blood, I got another one of those shots in my butt. So, being a needle phobe and someone that has dealt with these things all my life, it sure is good to apply blood type philosophy and the 2 out of 10 poison rules. So, in the things I put in my body, food and liquids, 2 out of 10 can be poison. Once that was mastered, we like to look at the body care products. And oh my goodness, remember, there's not just cosmetics and drugs. There's also quasi-drugs, and I've talked about that in my Holistic Stylist on hair color. A lot of poisons in the products, even the clothing that we wear, and none of this is to be judged. None of this is to feel guilty about. But as we eliminate poisons, here again, we can pat ourselves on the back and say, good job. I'm actually working on improving myself. I think that's really it, guys. I feel like we covered so much, and in the future we are going to get way deeper into the blood type philosophy and different things that we can do, because really what we're all doing now is the final critique, which is 2 out of 10 poisons in our thoughts. And of course, as we know, our minds can be the hardest thing to change. Throughout the video, I've had this beautiful pink rhodochrosite in my hand. And so I'd like to leave you today with what a rhodochrosite, what the focus and the blessing can be in this stone. Rhodochrosite facilitates the balancing of the mental process such that the attunement to the higher self can be attained, and one's awareness and spirituality can be enhanced. It assists in expanding one's consciousness awareness of duality and allows for recognition and insight with respect to the method or methods by which the pervasive presence of duality affects one's life. It also assists one in the attainment of the solution to the puzzling concept relating to the contradiction of duality of nature. It further assists one in accelerating the expansion of one's consciousness and to both understanding and initiate the practice of intensive relaxation, acceptance, and balancing. The crystalline structures are especially beneficial in these areas. It removes tendencies towards avoidance or denial and helps one to be willing to both accept and integrate new information while maintaining a clarity of intellect and a moderate ideal of practicality. It assists one in the reinterpretation of the traditional values, allowing for the reemergence and the reactualization of the validity of living in expressions in all situations. Namaste, guys. Peace, love, and light from the third cosmic ray, St. Louis, Missouri. And subscribe to to Suze Pratt on the YouTube channel, because I'm telling you, I've only scratched the surface. Wait till you see what we're going to bring you next. Thank you.